Hi, I'm Lisa. I work as a music leader and saxophonist in the Bollo Sound and Vision project. Now, we're all working at home at the moment, developing the project, developing our ideas, and what I'm doing personally is developing the educational ideas. So these are based on some workshops that the Bollo team carried out in some schools in Hastings. And what I've been doing at the moment, whilst I've been at home, is working on all the educational ideas that we used and seeing the areas where we can develop. Now, I've got a big document here I'll be sending round to the team, all my ideas about how we can develop the workshops, but I'd like to just present a few of those ideas now and play them. I'm very lucky to have an in-house team of musicians. I've got Wolf Looker on keyboards, who's played with Musa and Boob as well, and my daughter Iona on violin. And so all together we're going to help demonstrate some of the educational ideas behind Bollo. So I'd like to turn to our first song, and that's Bambo Bojang. Now, you may have seen some of the other videos and heard lots of different bits of the tune, but there's a really major part of the tune, and that's called the call in African music. African music often has a call and a response. Often it's instruments doing the calling and the vocals do the response. I'd just like to demonstrate the call on the saxophone. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. So now in a workshop context, that's far too long and complicated to do with a group of young people. But what we can do is listen to those different parts that you can hear in the other musicians' videos and find little bits of music, little cells that you can get a group of people to play. So I listened to Tom's video and he plays a marimba part as part of his demonstration. And I really liked that part and I thought we could do that on instruments. So we've been experimenting with that and here's what we come up with. I'll just demonstrate by myself the marimba part. It went roughly like this. Went like that. And Iona's found a harmony on violin for that. So let's demonstrate that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. So that sounds great, and we can build up little cells of music like that with a big team of musicians. And we don't have to have everyone playing at once. We could start with the violin, bring the saxophone in later. These are ideas we can explore in the workshops. But another technique that we used was for the young people to actually make up those little cells themselves. So they're bringing something to the music. Now, it was very important to Musa to keep to the essence of these Gambian songs when we did the workshop. So we talked about the background to these songs and how they're played and who plays them and when they're played. But then we also tried to play around with the musical ideas with Musa's help, telling us what actually works very nicely with the music and what perhaps doesn't work so well. So I've been playing along with some ideas with Iona on the violin, and she's come up with a very nice idea that we think particularly works for strings on this one. So let's just demonstrate that. So this is on the first backing again. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come in when you like. simple little part, but I can really imagine that with sort of 4 string players playing that, and perhaps some other instruments doing something a bit more short and punchy. I'd like to develop that idea in our next group of workshops. I would love for young people to take small groups out of the workshop and to develop these small ideas. That's something we didn't actually do in our workshop. It's an idea that I think we can develop, and perhaps, as Iona did with the first little cell of music, she harmonised that. Perhaps someone else could harmonise one of the other ideas that came about in the session. So that's a couple of ideas that I'm playing around with taking little cells from the music and also helping people to develop their own little cells. Now I'd like to turn to the second song, Bintan Bollo, and describe another technique that I would like to develop in sessions. Again, this is not something we did in our sessions, this is a new idea. But let's just get a flavour of the song first. This is a beautiful song, often played on the many-stringed instrument, the African kora. And Tom's video is very interesting actually, because Tom went to Gambia and played with the kora player and tried to mimic some of their playing on the keyboard. So it's very interesting to listen to his video about that. But I'm just going to play again the main call of the piece. Okay, if you could give me a little intro. Great, so that's the main call. Now this piece, as Tom demonstrates, is largely on one chord. Now that makes it a perfect vehicle to actually start exploring some solo parts with young people. Now this is not something we did, but I've been having some ideas around how we can use the open harmony of that piece to help people do their first explorations into improvisation. So we're going to look at one of the basic scales, and again Tom talked about the basic scales of this piece, and one of them is the D Dorian scale. So that goes like this. Now that's one of the scale choices we can have, but it's a very nice one actually, the D Dorian, because it's all the white notes on a keyboard. So all our keyboard players are perfectly happy then. So one of the ways in that I've been thinking of into improvisation is to play that scale, so there's no notes to worry about, but to play it in your own way. So you can start playing up the scale, you could pause on one note, you could go down one note, you could come up again. So you just basically, what I'm thinking of, wandering around the scale, finding things. And with an open harmony piece like this, it's just a perfect way to do it. So Iona's been exploring that on the violin. This piece works so well on the violin. And she's going to have a little wander around the scale, seeing what she can find. And Iona isn't an improviser, it's not something she does. So this is completely new, although it's working really nicely. lovely to hear that. And we haven't spent a great deal of time practicing that. So it just goes to show that with a piece as open as Bintang Bolong, with a simple scale, you can really start to make some lovely music there. And as Iona was playing, actually, I was starting to think that actually some of the things she was playing could actually be taken out as one of those little cells that I was talking about of music. So it could be used as a vehicle for composition as well. Now the last idea, thanks Iona and Bob, the last idea that I'd like to just quickly explore on these videos is the second part of the Bollo project. So Bollo is called Sound and Vision, and on our final concert with 3 schools, 90 children in Hastings, we had the artist and musician Michael Munday do a live painting from his response to the music, and you can see some of this on the website. The audience members came up to me afterwards and said how fantastic that was. They could really imagine the music a lot better when they saw Michael's interpretation. Now this is something I was thinking that we could develop in the workshops. We could draw out a graphic score for the piece instead of writing this in words. So we had, in our workshops, we had enormous pieces of paper with descriptions of our different sections and where different instruments were coming in, where they were coming out, where the drums were starting and stopping. But instead of that, we could actually, with the help of an artist, actually display that graphically and have a much more sort of connected visual score. I just want to quickly show you some scores that I did with another project, just to show you the idea and to show the team members, and maybe this is something we can develop. So these are the kind of things that we had from another improvisation project. As you can see some of them are actually very detailed, but they're all very evocative and much nicer to look at than a series of words. So I'd love to see the school's pieces in a graphic form done by the young musicians themselves. Would be a fantastic addition to Bollo workshops. So just to say lastly that all the Bollo workshops, they're all planned with the national curriculum for music in mind, particularly composing, arranging, ensemble playing, solo playing, and also experiencing music from different cultures. It brings in a lot of the national curriculum, and we try and pack it all into the session to get the young people to experience as many different aspects of music as possible. And I'm really looking forward to meeting up with the team and meeting up with young people in the near future when we can. Thanks.